everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Alisa Moteso. I am the school-based therapist here at Howard High School, and this is a group for anxiety. So I just want to make sure that everyone's in the right place. Yes, yes. Can I see some nodding? Yeah, okay, I just want to make sure. Before we get started into the session, there are a couple of housekeeping things that I want to go over, starting with one of the most important, and that's confidentiality. You can tell me what that means. Anyone? No? I can tell you what it means, that's okay. So confidentiality just means that whatever is said here is going to stay between us. This is what's called a closed group, so no new members will be joining for the 10 weeks that we will be meeting. It will always be here, it will always be at this time during your second period. I've spoken to your teachers about it, so don't worry about that. You're all good on that end. But basically, it's a safe space, and like I said, we're not going to share what's said here. We want to keep everyone's personal information private. Some of the things that we're going to be talking about are going to be uncomfortable or sad or maybe even happy too sometimes, but even those things, we just want to make sure that everyone's privacy and personal thoughts and feelings are respected. There's two exceptions to that. The first, if anyone mentions the intent to harm themselves or someone else through suicide or homicide, I'm what's called a mandated reporter, so I'm required by law to report that just to make sure that we can get the proper authorities involved to keep everyone safe. That's the first one. The second exception is if you disclose known abuse of a child, an elderly person, or a handicapped person, a disabled person, then I'm required to report that as well because they're some of our most vulnerable populations. Are there any questions about those two exceptions? No? Alright, let's go ahead and get started. I want to hear from you guys what you would like this group to be like. So we want to set some ground rules. I'm here to facilitate the session just to make sure that everyone gets an equal opportunity to share and just to ask some probing questions to kind of help you along your journey of identifying what anxiety means to you, what that looks like, and then also troubleshooting some ways that we can cope with that as well. So let's go around and introduce ourselves first. So if you could tell me your name. Let's see, if you could tell me if there was one food that you could convert into a seasoning, what would it be? And then one group rule that you think that we should have here to make your guys' time and your group more accepting and, respectful. So there's three things, right? Tell me your name, and then one little silly thing. So if you could convert any food into a seasoning, what would it be? And then one group rule that you would like to add to our group. So let's start here.
Hey guys, my name's Kyler. If I could convert any food into a seasoning, it would be mango. And a rule. I don't know. I can't think of a rule.
Okay, maybe once we go around, he'll think of something. We'll come back. Thanks, Kyler. Okay.
Hey, my name's Dylan. I really don't want to be here, so I don't want to participate in these questions. So we can skip me for now.
Alright, we're gonna skip you for now, but I am gonna come back. So I want you to be thinking. Because like I said, this is a group, it's for you guys. But that does mean that I want everyone to participate. And you are here of your own free will. So we would like it if you participate too.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm Amy. If there was any food that I could convert into a seasoning, it would probably be macaroni and cheese because I just love that. And then I guess like one rule that I would like is no interrupting, like whenever someone else is speaking.
Sure. That's a great rule, Amy. Thank you so much.
My name is Sarah, and if there was one food that I could convert into a seasoning, I don't know, I guess peaches. And then one rule, I guess, is just being respectful of others in the group and not making fun of them. for what they say.
Sure, that's a great one, thank you. Kind of, does that spark any?
Yeah, maybe just like have like a open and understanding perspective on everybody else's like view of anxiety.
Sure, so being open, being respectful of people's time as well, so we're talking over people so everyone can share.
Your device is disconnected. Pairing.
I guess a food that I'd want to convert into a seasoning would be grapes, and then a rule that I'd want for this group
Your
is
device is connected.
for us to be kind and good to one another as we interact.
That's a great rule, Dylan. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
Alright, so we've set the basis for how we want to conduct ourselves and how we're expecting our peers to behave as well during our groups. So now I want to hear what you guys are hoping to get out of the groups. Like I said, it's about anxiety. We're going to be identifying, what that looks like for each of you and troubleshooting different coping skills that you guys can use to reduce that anxiety. So based on those very loose and broad parameters, I'm going to get into pairs. You can just put the person next to you and kind of discuss what you'd like to get out of our time together. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, awesome.
I think like one of the main things is just like
stems from.
figuring out
Yeah,
how
I
to
guess
deal
that's the same for
with
me.
the anxiety.
And kind of just like how to deal with my anxiety
And
and make it
like understanding
more
other
constructive
forms
and
of
not like
anxiety as
debilitating.
well. To maybe help cope with the anxiety that you or I may be feeling.
Yeah. I mean, I think you pretty much said it all. So.
Awesome.
Alright.
Is there anything you want me to add?
Not really.
We good?
Mhm.
Okay. Amy, why don't you go ahead and share something that you'd like to get out of our time?
I guess just how to make my anxiety more constructive and less debilitating. Like how to maybe like use it to motivate me to do well rather than like just giving up.
Sure. That's great.
I said for mine to like find where it stems from.
We talked about like maybe understanding other kinds of anxiety to help cope with what type of anxiety you might be feeling. So
You pretty much said it all.
Summed it
so.
up beautifully.
yeah.
Alright. Okay. We're definitely going to be covering all of those things during our time together, so don't fret. We'll get to that. For our first activity, I think something that will be helpful is what I'm going to call the mood check scale. And so I passed out a piece of paper to all of you. And I've cheated a little bit because I already started mine, but just to show as an example. I want you guys to go ahead and draw, it doesn't have to be like this, but just draw a vertical scale from 0 to 10. So again, it doesn't have to look like this, just as long as you've got your 0 to 10 and it's a vertical scale, we'll be good. We're all almost there, almost done. Okay. So this is an anxiety scale, right? So at your 0 is when you're feeling at peace, you're calm, you're so like relaxed and not stressed, no anxiety, you could like almost go to sleep. And your 10 is like full-fledged anxiety attack, whatever that looks for you, it looks like for you. So I want you to draw for me what a 10 kind of looks like. Any illustration or little drawing that you think symbolizes what a 10 feels like, that's what I want you to draw up here by your 10.
I have to draw something?
If there's another method of expressing that you think would better suit you, then you can do that if that's words or if that's whatever that looks like for you. If it's words or a drawing. But kind of put something that kind of portrays what it is that a 10 feels like for you.
Okay.
Alright. I'm hearing some giggles over here. Are you still with me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes? Okay. Okay. You with me still?
Yeah.
Alright. We're all done? Okay. I'll go ahead and now share mine first. I am not an artist, but bear with me. I drew some flames, or I attempted to, with a pot, and a bunch of bubbles kind of boiling over, because I think that's what best illustrates how my anxiety feels. It's like everything in my life is just bubbling over, and I can't put the lid back on fast enough to push it down. So that's what my 10 looks like, and kind of what it feels like. Who wants to go next?
Wait, I want to go. Okay. So mine is.
Aren't you not supposed to interrupt?
Anyway.
Alright,
Mine-
alright, hold on. Let's take this time. So, that is a good point. We did talk about group rules. One of them was not interrupting. I get that you are excited to share. Do you believe you have started to say something? Is that correct? You don't know. Okay. Is that a yes? Alright. Well, if it's not a yes and it's not a no, I'm going to let Sarah go. I just want to remind you that we are all equals here. I want everyone to have the same opportunity to share what they want. I don't want anyone to feel like they're being talked over, like they're being ignored. I want this to be a safe space, and I want everyone to be comfortable and feel free to share. So,
You can go. You can go.
okay. Thank you, Sarah. Alright, go ahead.
I just drew a guy like screaming in frustration. All I can draw is a stick figure. So. Stick figure.
Is that what you feel like? Like you're yelling? Do you yell in frustration sometimes? You don't know. Alright. Well, by the end of like our second session, you're definitely going to know. Alright. Thank you for sharing, Tyler. Alright, Sarah, go ahead.
Mine's also a stick figure, and it's just a girl like gritting her teeth and then like pulling out her hair because she's just so frustrated.
Yeah. Very tense. Where do you feel the tension the most?
Probably like in her shoulders, like in the upper body.
Does anyone else get tenseness in their body?
Sometimes
Yeah, sometimes. Same place, different place?
Around the same place.
Yeah, tension in the body is a very common side effect of anxiety, just because it's your body's way of like not knowing what to do with itself. It just kind of tenses up, and it's hard to get rid of and alleviate that. So, thanks for sharing. All right.
I can go.
Okay.
So mine is also a stick figure. That's why we were laughing. It's not very good.
Okay.
But, I just drew like kind of like a mess in the person's head because like that's how I get when I'm anxious. Like I can't decipher like one thought from another. They just all kind of flood together.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
So I drew like a lightning bolt from a bunch of clouds, and that kind of signifies just feeling of shock and like I'm being fried, basically. Yeah.
you all for sharing. You know, this is not the easiest to do, to share our private feelings and thoughts, but I appreciate it, and I'm sure your peers appreciate it too, because like we've witnessed with Sarah and Amy here, you know, some of those side effects that we experience are common and other people experience them too, so it kind of lets us know that we are not alone, and that can be helpful for some of us sometimes. Good. All right, I want you to think back to a time where you were at a 10. And it can be the most recent time, it can be a past time, it's up to you. But just think about a time where you were at a 10, I'll give you a couple of seconds. And then if you guys wouldn't mind sharing what that experience was like. If you're comfortable sharing what led up to your anxiety being at a 10, that would be helpful as well.
You're supposed to draw it out or like write it.
You don't have to draw it. You just want to think about it and share in a couple seconds. If it's helpful for you to draw it though, by all means, go ahead. I don't want to stop you.
There was one time, before we were having school dance that, I just became super anxious and, started having a panic attack. I think partly because like I hadn't really eaten anything that day, because I wanted to look skinny in my dress, and then, I didn't feel like I looked good, so,
And that led to you feeling like a 10.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Is everyone else ready to share, or do you want a couple more seconds to think about it? Alright, I'm seeing some eyeballs, so we're gonna go ahead and keep going. Do you want to go next, Amy?
Sure. So I guess one time that I was really anxious was whenever I had to give a speech in front of like my entire school, so it was like 300 people, and I was just really anxious about it. So I ended up like hiding in the bathroom and not giving it. So I just kind of like skipped that class. So I didn't have to do it.
Does anyone else have a fear of like public speaking? Yeah, I know I do. Dylan?
Yeah, my thing is similar to what she said. I had to give a speech. It wasn't in front of a lot of people, but it was still pretty scary. And I kind of like, in the middle of, like I was feeling super anxious and nauseous while I was giving the speech, and in the middle of the speech I ended up like throwing up in front of everybody. So yeah, I was pretty embarrassed, and I didn't want to come back to school for like a week, so I didn't.
Man, I can imagine how difficult that must have been. Thank you for sharing that.
Mine's kind of like similar to what everybody had said. I'm the football team's kicker, and the first time when I got, you know, onto the team, we were playing against another high school. I was supposed to do the kickoff, and I couldn't, and I just like ended up running off the field instead. And now all the football guys are like trash talking me and stuff, and it just sucks.
Yeah. Anxiety is hard, especially when it's at such a high level, like a 10. And so the purpose of this mood check scale is to kind of help you identify your different levels of anxiety. So the next question I have is, before your anxiety was at a 10, were there any tells that you noticed that maybe may have signified like, oh, like my anxiety is getting pretty high? It might turn into what we've discovered is, called a 10. So you mentioned earlier like you feel tenseness in your shoulders at a 10, but is there anything that you feel before that lets you know like my anxiety is starting? Because right, they don't often start out as a full-fledged 10. Usually there's little things that kind of build up the anxiety, and by the time it's like built up, then it becomes a 10. So take a couple of seconds to think about this same scenario that we shared. What were some of the tells that, looking back now, you may not have realized were tells, and then we'll share those.
So for me, like my anxiety always starts out like on a really low scale, around like a 1 or a 2, and I just like now I kind of like know what like the feeling is. It's very distinct. It's just like it starts out kind of like feeling like butterflies, so like it's not necessarily like super bad or anything, but then it starts like whenever it starts getting like kind of debilitating and like just making me feel like I'm out of control. I get really cold in my hands for some reason, and I start shaking a little bit, and that's how I know I'm usually around like a 7 or an 8, and that's when I know like it's about to become like a full-fledged like anxiety attack.
Okay. Man, so butterflies.
Butterflies is how it
Cold
starts.
extremities. Okay. Anyone else get butterflies?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Yeah. It's gonna be different for everyone, but there are some commonalities like across the board that some people experience it, some people experience that. So, thanks for sharing that. Do you want to?
Sure. Sometimes I get butterflies, but like I find myself being very irritable and just getting angry at little things and not knowing why. And then like my heart, sometimes like I can feel it, like it feels like it's skipping beats. And so that's like when I know like it's starting to climb and get higher.
Thank you. Dylan, why don't you go?
I feel like really sweaty, really like my heart is starting to pick up, beat faster. Feel like I need to go to the bathroom, and I feel like I need to throw out. Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Kylie?
My legs start to shake, and I get like this tightness in my chest, and it just feels kind of like I'm suffocating. But like with the need to run, which makes it really weird.
Well, it might feel weird to you, but sometimes when your body's very anxious, it activates the fight or flight response. And so it takes all the blood that's from your head and your brain, because there's a lot of blood up there, and it pumps it into your extremities, so like your arms and legs, and that's what activates the fight or flight response. So sometimes that's what activates like the jitters and kind of feeling weak-legged, is because there's this huge rush all of a sudden that's going to your extremities to activate your body's fight or flight response, so it can protect itself the best way that it can. So thank you so much for sharing, you guys. The reason we do this, like I said, is to be able to identify different levels of anxiety, because ideally when we're first noticing like the signs of anxiety, if we're able to kind of be like, oh, like I recognize that this kind of like my hands are feeling cold, or my heart is quickening, or my legs are starting to shake, like I'm recognizing that like I'm not at a good level right now, and I need to reduce my anxiety before it gets up to a 10. And so when we're able to identify those stressors or those triggers, what that kind of looks like, we can do our best to use coping skills that we're going to be learning through our time to keep that level down and keep it manageable and at a healthy level of stress, I guess. So the next thing I want to do is go around, and I just want to get a gauge from you of how you've been coping so far with your anxiety. Whatever that looks like, if you're not coping, that's fine too. But let's start this way. And when you start like experiencing those little telltale signs that you just shared, what are some things that you've tried in the past or are currently doing to try and manage those symptoms?
I think like my go-to thing is just like trying to run away to a spot where I can be by myself for a second and just like catch my breath. Whether that's like a bathroom stall or a locker room or just an empty classroom sometimes, like it helps.
Yeah. Okay, so trying to be by yourself so you can kind of cope with that on your own. Okay.
I listen to music and exercise.
Okay.
I don't cope. I just cry a lot. Like, I don't know, like sometimes when I cope, I guess like I like to listen to music, but that's like the only thing where I like to be by myself, but like, I don't know. I just kind of don't know how to cope.
Okay.
I don't know. I used to have a negative coping skill of cutting myself. But I guess a more positive coping skill would be going for a walk.
Okay.
I like to go for a walk with my dog.
Animals are so relaxing. At least I find them relaxing. Now they're not relaxing for everyone, but I'm glad you've been able to find some comfort in that. So that's nice. Was there anything that anyone shared that you hadn't thought to do?
I hadn't thought of like taking my dog on a walk because like my dog is very, I don't know, she helps me calm down, I guess. Kind of like brings me back to reality a little bit more. And I like walking too, so I guess that's kind of like Dylan with like the exercise and music. I like those things too.
Anyone else? That's okay. I'm curious. I want to go around and see what your levels are right now, currently. So on that mood check scale, if you could just quickly assess how your day has been so far and let me know what you're feeling right now, just so I can kind of get a gauge.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, so just quickly assessing how your day has been so far, just today. If you could tell me on the mood check scale what level you're at right now. What's your anxiety level at?
Mine's a 5.
A 5. Okay, so midway, not quite up in the high, but still higher than we want it to be. Okay, 5.
So my day kind of like started at like a 2, and it's been fluctuating a lot, but it was like an 8 when group started, because like I don't know you guys, and being new people kind of causes me to be anxious.
Yeah.
But then like it lowered to like a 4 or a 5 because I felt really comfortable. But then Sarah, when you interrupted Kyler, that just, and like Dylan kind of like called you out, that made me really anxious
Okay.
because I felt like that conflict was like there.
Sure.
So now I'd say like I'm more at a 7.
Well, I'm glad you were feeling comfortable, and I'm sad, that the little confrontation caused you to have a little bit more anxiety. But hopefully, now that we've gotten to know each other a little bit moving forward, we'll remember our group rules and there'll be less confrontation. But thank you for sharing that. That couldn't have been easy, so thank you. Alright, so 5, 7, okay.
I'm at a 4.
A 4, okay.
6.
A 6. Okay, so you've got some kind of higher, some kind of lower. I didn't just want to set you off into the world and not know how you were feeling currently. So before I do let you go, I do want to do an exercise really quick. It's not going to require anything except yourself. Because I don't want to send you off to class like at 7s and 5s. I'd like to send you off to class hopefully like at 3 or 4. But no pressure. So what we're gonna do is I'm personally gonna lean back. You can do it however you want. I'm gonna lean back a little. I'm gonna put one hand on my chest. I'm gonna put this hand on my belly. And I'm going to do my best to take as big a deep breath as possible continuously for about a minute. And the goal is to move the bottom hand up more than the top hand. So we want to breathe from our diaphragm, from our gut, I guess, and not so much your chest. The reason we do this is to kind of open up the vagus nerve, which we're going to be talking about next session. It's a wonderful, powerful mechanism in the body. But we're just going to activate that, and deep breathing does help reduce anxiety. And in this little moment, if nothing else is going right in our life, we at least have control over one thing, and that is our breath. We get to choose how deep it is, how long we hold it, and we have our literal life in our hands. So we are in control of something, and that's a really powerful feeling, I think. So let's go ahead and just take some really deep breaths. Again, trying as hard as we can to move this bottom hand up more than the top. Just a couple more seconds. I'm gonna give you one more big one, you guys. That's okay. We're here to share sensitive things, and we're gonna giggle as well too, so don't feel bad. All good things. Let's do another quick mood check really fast before I let you guys go. If your number stayed the same, that's totally fine, but I just want to check in. We'll go this way this time.
5.
5, okay.
3.
3, all right.
5.
5, okay.
4.
4. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We're definitely going to be digging into more coping skills in the weeks that follow, and of course addressing all the things that you shared before, like getting to the root of the anxiety and learning about different kinds. So I appreciate all of your participation, and now release you to go to class.